brought to you by Sip for Your Cause.
Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Let's Talk Nonprofits. Again, our show where we share best practices within the nonprofit sector to help improve the effectiveness of nonprofit organizations. And we do that through conversations with nonprofit leaders, thought leaders, organizational leaders, philanthropists, and others in the sector, experts in their particular area to help operational efficiency for organizations. So again, we welcome you to this episode. And this episode, we are focusing on managing contracts and grants once you've achieved them. And so we have a guest expert today, Totally Youth Support Services, that is led by none other than the president, Ms. Sharlene Sanders. Welcome, Ms. Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nash.
Well, let me tell you, we're really excited today to have you here. I've got a chance to meet Ms. Sharlene Sanders, been a couple of months now ago, probably almost 3 months now, I think it was, when we first met. And I was very excited to find out what you were doing. In fact, it's very much in line with our company's initiative, Sip for Your Cause, that provides resources to help nonprofit organizations, again, increase awareness, effectiveness, sustainability, and impact. So we're excited to have Totally Youth Support here on Let's Talk Nonprofits. But before we get into that, tell us about Sharlene Sanders.
Okay, my name is Sharlene Sanders. I'm a native of Bainbridge, Georgia. I've been in Atlanta for over 25 years. And I have a passion for working in the community. And I really attribute that from my mother. I've watched her through the years of working in the communities and an advocate in the community. And I grew up and that just became a part of me. And as I began to work for the state of Georgia, my work actually lined up with what I had such a passion for. Most of my work for the agency have been working with community-based initiatives, working with community-based organizations that provided services for the state of Georgia, collaborating with them, making sure that we were getting the services that the state of Georgia really needed. So that is just a passion of mine, and that's what I love to do. So that's what I like.
Well, very good. And I would tell you that when I first learned of the company and what your background is, I was just amazed that this quality of knowledge, wealth of knowledge, this experience base that comes from the state of Georgia's operation for community-based organizations and managing their contracts and their grants. Now you take that skill base and make that accessible to the everyday person that's running nonprofit organization, community-based organizations. So again, I think that's a very unique opportunity. So I'm excited about Totally Youth Support. And so let's get into that. So you were with the State Department and helping with that leadership capacity of managing the contracts and the grants. How did Totally Youth Support come about?
Totally Youth Support came about as, like I said earlier, just a driving passion and love that I have for that kind of work. And so I decided that it was something that I wanted to do on my own so that I could venture into other areas and make sure that all of the resources that community-based organizations needed, that I was able to support them, didn't have any restraints or guidelines around what I could and couldn't do, and just to be open to provide the services that they needed.
Interesting, and I can get that wanting to have the shackles released from you. So I understand that, and the thing that I've learned most, I think, about reading up on and doing research. I initially thought that Total Youth Support Services just focus on nonprofits, but you really do community-based access organizations as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So just explain that a little bit.
I work with profit,
yeah.
nonprofit, community-based organizations, faith-based initiatives, any of the entities that receive grant funds.
Okay.
Because our work comes into play, once an organization receives grant funds, we come in and make sure that they're meeting all of the guidelines and requirements and that they're in compliance so that they will continue to receive the funds.
Okay. And in other words, again, and I'm glad that I came across that because I was limiting you. I was just thinking, oh, we can refer nonprofits to you, but actually, you complete the spectrum
Yes,
of just community-based impact.
community-based, exactly.
So very good, and I'm glad that you shared that. Now, I also recognize that you help those organizations manage grants as well as contracts. And could you just elaborate on that a bit, the difference between the two?
Yes, the difference between grant management and the contract management is that with the grant, you're awarded funds normally from a federal agency.
Okay.
Once you get those grant funds, compliance is attached to those funds, and there are a lot of ins and outs, and sometimes it can be more challenging with understanding all of those guidelines and all of the pieces that come
Yes,
with it.
yes.
With contract management, a lot of times you may have an agreement between two organizations
Okay.
or agreement between state and local government where you may just have a contract. But even with those contracts, you still have compliance guidelines that you have to meet. It may not be as detailed as grant funds,
Okay.
but like I said earlier, compliance is compliance. So either way, whether you would just have a contract with other agencies or funding from federal agencies, there's still some type of compliance and guidelines and requirements that are attached.
And that's very important. I think that's a very critical service that you provide because I have heard of, and more often than not, organizations not being in compliance and therefore losing funds. And sometimes, at the end of not having the compliant procedures in place to document that they've been compliant, and they end up losing the renewal. So that is a very critical service that you provide. And again, guys, we just like to encourage you to understand what we do here at Let's Talk Nonprofits is to provide you best practices that will help you operate your nonprofit organizations more effectively and efficiently. And again, these nuggets that you're hearing right now, again, we ask that, if you need someone to help you with that grant compliance or that contract execution and compliance, totally your support is here. I tell you, you hear the wealth of background that she brings to the industry and to the sector. A great opportunity for you to take advantage of a very critical resource. So let me ask you this. So now we hear that you're here. Once the grant is awarded, you're able to provide service to make sure that it's compliant. We get that. How would I know that I needed you? Sometimes we don't know what we need because we don't know what we don't know. So how does one know I need totally your support?
First, I would say that you need to assess your organization.
Okay.
Assess your process that you currently have in place for the grants that you have. Do you have procedures and a process set up to make sure that you're in compliance throughout that term? Or are you scrambling at the end of that year to pull your reports together and try to show the funder what you have done at the last minute, and then it all falls out and you're not able to renew your grant because you did not continue to manage through the term.
Okay.
So just assess where you are, and when you look at the end of your term, where are you? Do you have everything that you need and can show the funder, I have really succeeded here, or you at the end of scrambling and trying to figure out what's going on? And if you're at that point, reach out to Totally You Support Services, and we can help you with that.
Wow. I'm going to go a bit further because while she's talking, I'm thinking of IRS, as a business, making sure that I have the documentation in place to help support the expenses that I show and those type things, and it's very critical as business owners, you understand, to operate. And one thing that I always remind nonprofit organizations and community-based organizations that are not for profit is that you are a business. I repeat that thing every opportunity we get, whether on the show or off of the program, that we want to really encourage those nonprofit leaders to understand that at the end of the day, that yes, the loss, the balance sheet might show that there was no profit, but the operation and everything else that goes along with must be run like a business. There are business principles that are being applied will help it be more effective. And one in which you
Right.
just described, in terms of, like you say, they might call on superhero at the end to help me meet that deadline and documentation procedures. But would it not be a better advice? And I won't say better, but I think if I was on the end of operating, I would want you to be there with me at the beginning and stay with
Mm-hmm.
me along. So how does that work? So let's take that question. Is there a way that I can get totally youth support to be with me at the beginning, and go through the whole process so I won't be scrambling at the end?
Yes, just reach out to Total Youth Support Services and we will come in and assist you. Our process when we come in is first to do an assessment.
Okay.
We have a small written assessment that we ask you to complete, and from that point, I look at the grants that you have and determine what your needs are. Look at what your processes and procedures that you currently have
Okay.
in place, and then we collaboratively work together with providing whatever you need. Our consulting services are designed to support you, so we tailor them in the way around the services that you need and what your desires are, because everyone's needs are different. And after we complete the assessment and determine what is needed, then Total Youth Support Services move into providing the evaluation, the monitoring, the reporting, the training, and the technical assistance from
Okay.
there.
Okay. So, I think it's evident from what you've just described, but, just for surety's sake, so what is the vision and mission of Total Youth Support?
The vision of Total Youth Support Services is to be the primary resource of grant management services for profit, nonprofit, community-based, faith-based initiatives worldwide around contract management services. We're so excited that we have had some organizations in other countries that
Okay.
have reached out and have asked for assistance around grant
Very good.
management. They've shared that there are a lot of grant funds that's coming in around economic development in those areas in
Yes.
other countries.
Yes.
And they've shared that sometimes we really don't understand the ins and outs and how to meet compliance. So I'm excited about even having a conversation about some of those organizations in other countries and looking at how we can begin to work with them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I didn't know that you had gotten that level of interaction. So
Yes,
congratulations.
thank you.
I would like to ask, so how do you go about reaching out to other organizations to share your services?
First, I would say by Biz Links, now with
Okay.
you, Mr. Nash, and thank you so much for that opportunity
You're
that
more
now
than
I'm
welcome.
able to share in this resources here. And also, I share the resources through other entities in the community
Okay.
that support nonprofit, community based organizations. I've connected with them and shared the service and vision
Great.
of Total Youth Support Services so I can connect with them and add my resources to what they are providing
Yes.
for the community. Also, by word of mouth. I have been speaking with some community based organizations that have shared my information with other organizations
Okay.
around the work that we do. And I love the word of mouth because people are going to talk about what you're doing, whether it's good or bad. They're going to talk about it. So
That's right.
I'm excited about the fact that they're spreading the word about
Good.
what Total Youth Support Services is
Good.
doing.
Well, I would tell you, you're absolutely right. People are going to talk about what you're doing one way or another, so you might as well feed them good information.
Mm-hmm.
I just a tidbit on that. In my past life, I was an educator and principal, and one of my classmates in my doctoral program, it was a superintendent in Ohio. But he shared with me, he said, Nash, let me tell you a secret to keep positive communication out there, getting people talking about. He said, just make great relationship with the news beat, the reporter on the education news beat, and just feed them everything that's going on at your school. And I'm telling you, you're absolutely right. If you're putting that positive information out
Yes.
there, you add to that, even if someone might be disgruntled. Because I always say, business owner, they say the customer's always right. Well, there's a little caveat that I add to that, but I won't talk about it on this show. But the bottom line is that that you can't be all things to all people.
Right.
And some people you just can't satisfy, and you can't give away the kitchen sink or the store. So I hear you. I hear you, and great opportunity to put out positive things. So I like the fact that you are reaching out into where you are by collaborating with other organizations and agencies that help in that particular sector. I would like to know, and I do know that there's something coming up this week. So this is another way that you're added to your dimension of reaching out, letting people know that Totally You support is there. Would you share with us what's coming up this week that's so special?
Yes, I am so excited that Totally You Support Service is hosting a networking event Thursday, August 21st from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. that evening at Cobb Works in Marietta, Georgia. And our focus is to bring community-based organizations, nonprofit organizations. We've invited grant writers to come and collaborate and share with each other what they're doing in their world,
Yeah.
because their work is very similar. And I'm going to share with them around how to access grant funds.
Okay.
And once you access those grant funds, what do you need to do to maintain those funds, and looking at some other streams of funding other than just grant funds.
Okay, very good. So is there a cost to attend?
There's not a cost to attend. It is free, but when you register, they ask for $10 for you to register, but you register, you pay the $10, but once you come to the event, we will reimburse those $10 at the time that you come to the event.
Okay.
So technically it is free.
Yeah, so technically it is free. So we encourage you, if you're out there and you're looking for a good resource to work your nonprofit community-based organization, check out the networking event that's coming on up at the Carb Energy Center, Carb Works, and participate. And again, we know that there are many of you out there who would take advantage of that. But before we go, if you had one or two nuggets that you felt before we closed out this segment, what is that you would want the nonprofit sector or community-based sector to know?
One thing I was saying, not to repeat what you said earlier, but it's just a part of what I say a lot. You are a business.
Okay.
Operate like a business.
Okay.
And when you receive your grant funds, make sure that you're in compliance with those funds. And if you're really not for sure how to do that, reach out to us and we can help you with that. And look at other funding streams that you can bring into your organization, from donors, from foundations, from having raising money, from having events. Because when you have money to do what you need to do, that is how you are strengthened. And you want to be set aside as an organization that exemplifies exceptional characteristics and qualities.
Okay.
And you're able to do that by having the funds and the resources to do what you need to do to serve your community, and that strengthens your organization, and as a result, it strengthens your community.
Great, great, great. Well, I think that's great advice. And again, we just happen to share that same philosophy about being a business in terms of the principles of operation. And again, guys, we want to encourage you to reach out to Totally You Support if you have your Totally You Support services, if you have grants or if you have contracts that you need assistance managing. And sometimes you may not necessarily know that you do need help. So you've heard some of the clues to find out if you do, but go to their website, TotallyUSS.com. Yes, say that one more time.
www.totaluss.com.
And is there a number they can reach?
Yes, you can reach me at 678-472-8033.
So again, take advantage of this great resource, Totally You Support Services. And we're going to go to a commercial break. But before we do, we would really like to recognize our episode sponsor, our show sponsor, Sip for Your Cause. Sip for Your Cause is an initiative by the Alexander Marketing Group that really helps support nonprofit organizations in terms of reaching their impact, helping them to increase their awareness, sustainability, funding, and ultimately increasing that impact. Again, by giving you access to great resources such as Totally You Support Services and other organizations that could help you reach your goals. So again, visit them at www.sipforyourcause.org. So we will see you after the commercial break.
Does your son need a more challenging, focused, and encouraging educational environment? Renaissance Christian Academy is an affordable private school for boys located in McDonough, Georgia, with certified teachers that are uniquely equipped to help your son master learning. You're welcome to schedule a tour of our facilities by calling 770-305-9881 or by visiting our website at rcaboysacademy.org. Renaissance Christian Academy, developing young men to be great leaders through Christ-centered learning.
What happens when soldiers come home? Brene Foundation offers hero support to ensure that our heroes abroad can continue to be heroes at home. We link veterans with organizations who are dedicated to guiding the transition from military hero to civilian hero. If you want to find out how you can support our troops at home, please contact the Brene Foundation or visit brene.com.
Welcome back, and we again thank all of our sponsors for making this possible. Let's Talk Nonprofits. And as we say, that our whole purpose for Let's Talk Nonprofits is to provide you best practices that will help you as nonprofit organizations and leaders of your organizations be more effective in terms of increasing your awareness, your funding, your sustainability, and ultimately your impact. On this closing section of our program today, I just want to share just brief thoughts about what I believe are key elements to helping your organization improve in terms of its operation and its impact. And several of my comments will be based upon the article that was written by Karen Beavers. She is the president and CEO of the Georgia Center for Nonprofits. But again, there are thoughts that I have that just happen to concur or coincide with my belief, what she shared. But she challenges the nonprofit organization and sector as a whole. That means philanthropists, thought leaders, organizational leaders. It means anybody that's operating in a non-sector environment. She challenges us to rise above the isolationism that we have. And she talks about coming up to the point where we're taking on the responsibility of ensuring that the nonprofit sector is achieving its goals. So I want to talk on that a little bit, just point out three nuggets that I would like to leave with you about how I believe your organization can become more effective. And the first is around collaboration. A lot of times when we're working with nonprofit organizations, we see them working in isolation. Isolation in terms of believing that whatever their cause is, that's all it's about. They got to figure it out. They've got to provide every aspect of service to those target recipients. Well, I'm here to share with you that we have discussed with effective organizations, and we've seen that the more of the most effective organizations are those who don't try to do it all. In fact, they bring in other agencies, they bring in other individuals, guest experts, or experts, should I say, in particular areas, and they join forces to either get a grant and carry out the execution of that grant effectively. But the main thing, as Karen Beaver says, it's time to break down the silos. It's time to stop working in isolation, and it's time to begin to increase collaboration. So that's the first nugget that I would like to encourage you. If you feel that you're not moving forward, or you see and you experience the stagnation that we hear a lot of nonprofit organizations discuss, or community-based organizations discuss, do a self-assessment. One, who's on your team? Is it just you trying to get it all done? Do you have volunteers? And beyond the volunteers, do you have other organizations and even experts who can help join your team and provide particular services, whether it's technology integration, whether it's human resources management or talent management? You cannot do it all. And so neither can businesses do it all. And I always say that we need to begin to think more like businesses. We don't have to become businesses, but we have to apply certain principles. But make an assessment and determine where are you, and be honest with yourself. And would you be better off, and the answer is yes before you even begin to start, would you be better off including someone else in that engagement of services? The second thing that I want to talk about and share is the fact that about becoming a student of the industry. Many organizations exist. There are countless numbers of nonprofits in the nonprofit sector. But I will promise you, there are more people who have little knowledge about the sector. There are more organizations that are out there, and all they're doing is trying to figure out, how do I stay afloat? How can I get more money? How can I, it's about I. But I encourage you, begin to be a student of the industry, of the sector. Find out how this thing actually works. It's an ecosystem, and the ecosystem has components that are critical to your survival. And if you don't understand that survival or the ecosystem, that ecosystem will not be able to help sustain you. Whether it's increasing funding, whether it's increasing impact, sustainability, all of those things, organizational development, I encourage you to become a student of the industry. How do you become a student of the industry, you say? I say the first thing is find out what literature and publications are out there. We don't advocate or push one organization over another, but just go out there and look. You can just Google and find out what organizations are out there publishing information about funding, philanthropy, grant resources, human resources, board governance, all of those components. And when you begin to look into the literature, you will find there's a host of information out there. Read it. Start with your level of interest. The second thing is move beyond just your cause. In other words, it is important that you just stop looking at what it is that you're trying to do, but again, look at the sector as a whole, and determine how you can benefit from accessing it, as well as how can you contribute to it. Again, I refer to it as an ecosystem. And if you take advantage of that system, not only will you survive, you will be able to eat from it, but you will provide feeding and nourishment to other organizations, so that organizations, agencies, and other entities within that ecosystem, to make sure that the ecosystem survives and thrives. So again, I encourage you to become a student of the industry. And finally, I want to reiterate to all the nonprofit and community-based organizations there that are listening to us today, is that you are a business. I know some people are offended by that, but the fact of the matter is there are principles and elements of operation of a business that has to be applied to the operation of your nonprofit. And that's hiring, firing, that's management of your resources, whether it's capital or whether it's actually funding. But I encourage you to make sure that you begin to assess yourself and be real with yourself. Yes, at the end of the day, the ledger has to read nonprofit, but the fact of the matter, in order for you to exist, increase your awareness, marketing needs to be done in order for you to increase your sustainability and even to be in a position to request funding. There are elements of business principles that must be applied. So again, as we close this programming of Let's Talk Nonprofits, we want to always encourage you to succeed. We want you to always be encouraged to access one another. You're not in this alone. There are a tremendous amount of resources out there to help you be successful. And again, remember, tear down the silos, the isolationism, and build up collaboration. So again, until next time, we appreciate you, and as the SIP for Your Cause organization initiative says, we give you our highest salute and saying this SIP's for you. Until next time, we will see you on Let's Talk Nonprofit.